It is a UFC 290 weekend in Las Vegas. And you know what else is going on in Las Vegas, Paul? You're more on the
Summer League.
UFC NBA Summer League.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
I was
absolutely.
watching it. Yeah.
They have games. I just looked at the schedule from today's the beginning of the Vegas Summer League. I was in Summer League in Sacramento earlier this week, so I got to see some games. But the 7th through the 17th, so there's lots of basketball coming up, and the big matchup. We are recording this on Friday, and it'll actually go up on YouTube on Friday. But this is for the audio will be on Saturday morning's Fight Game Podcast Extra. Friday night, it's Wemby, man. It's Wemby Mania. Wemby Mania is running wild. So this is a big week for Vegas with Summer League and then UFC.
When does my boy Grady Dick play?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. They're releasing details about the play-in or the season tournament tomorrow on ESPN,
the in-season
right?
tournament. It looks like it's going to be in December, also in Vegas, at least the finals or whatever. So yeah, very, very interesting week. And they're doing NBA Con. So like the Comic-Con version for the NBA, which is interesting. But they're also going heads up against their own summer league. And from what my son said, because my son is out there, him and his buddies, they have their own podcast network. They're out there, and he said that there's no in and out privilege for the game. So if you're kind of stuck in the arena and you can't leave to then go to NBA Con. So that's
where do they do that? Mandalay?
The games are at Cox, and where does UNLV play?
Oh shoot, I know this.
UFC used to run some shows there, right?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, whatever those two places are, that's where they play.
Something Pavilion.
Yeah. So yeah, big weekend, and UFC 290 is Saturday night. I will be on the post show for Wrestling Observer Radio. Your co-host partner Ryan Frederick will join Dave and I to talk about this show. But I'm pretty pumped because I have the time to see it. My family's out of town, so I would have bought it more than likely, even if I wasn't doing the post show with Dave and Ryan. But also, for me, I really love the Mexican influence on this show. Brandon Moreno is fighting, and who's the other?
Yair is in the main event.
Yeah, Yair's in the main event.
But the woman, one of their big signature stars coming up, Yasmin Yargui, is fighting on the prelims, and she's a huge star from Mexico, or they're hoping will be a huge star from Mexico. She's only 24, and she's a ton of charisma.
She's from Tijuana, baby.
Yeah, she just like fountain of charisma. She had her debut match last year in San Diego, just stole the show. It's great fight.
All right, so what we're going to do is we'll go over some of Paul's best bets based on the way that he does it through ROI. But let's talk about your 289. How'd you do in 289 for best bets?
Went 2-1. I didn't write down the picks here, but I had based on $100 bets. I had a $60 profit. So, that's profits are always good. And overall now over 3 shows, 5 and 4 with an $18 profit. So it's not a lot of money, but $18 is $18.
Yep. Yeah, you're in the game. Like, you have a reason to bet if you are staying even. Your wife can't be like, you're losing all of our money. You're like, no, I'm even. I'm fine.
Well, no, and I mean, let's be honest, like I'm actually betting a hell of a lot more than these two. But I'm also not betting $100 a fight. But I do all right. I cashed. I just actually on my lunch hour, I went to the bank and cashed out my profits from last weekend. It was $260.
There you go.
Yeah. I got a nice fish and chips dinner.
Yeah.
A few bills putting the old dresser drawer for my next Vegas trip.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about UFC 290. So you're going to give us your best bets here in a second. We'll also talk about, kind of what are some of the reasons why people should be interested in this card. I think one of them is the main event. Can you give me the sort of the origin story of how we got here with the interim title? And I know that like Volkanovski, he has been tremendous as a what is his weight class? The featherweight. And then he tried to win the lightweight championship, but he did not. But he's been a very dominant featherweight. So he's kind of become, I don't know how big of a marquee star he is for them, but he's kind of become must see for hardcore UFC fight fans.
Okay, so if you really, I could try to be logical, but realistically, like I have no idea why they did an interim title, and this is something Ryan and I talked about on In the Clinch, because on the same show that Alexander Volkanovski moved up to fight for the lightweight title, that's when they crowned an interim featherweight champion, and that
Yes.
was Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. So I guess maybe the thinking was that if Volkanovski won, he would want to defend that lightweight title, and then he may not be able to fight at 145. But I don't know why they had to do it on the same card, other than maybe they just wanted to have two title fights for their return to Australia, which is where that show took place in February. So that's, I mean, two title fights is really the only reason, and they've done this before. I mean, they had a heavyweight interim title fight last year, just because they needed a title fight. So, but here they didn't even need a title fight. So that was the questionable thing. But Volkanovski still is talking about moving up to 155, even if he wins this fight. So he wants to be a double champ. But Yair Rodriguez is very credible contender, and he's had a lot of big wins. And one thing I've always found is when guys are talking about moving up, they tend to lose. So
I
we'll
may
see
not be on I may be on a different prize, kind of.
What do you mean?
If you're looking ahead, you're not looking.
God, yeah. Sorry, I thought you said, when you said I thought you meant you, like as in like you're like, oh, I'm on a. What is he talking about? But yeah, you're right, and so yeah, your head's not quite in the 145 game, because you're thinking about 155, and he, and a lot of other people believe he won that fight against Makhachev. So, it was a very close fight, and if they did it again, it could go the other way. So,
it makes sense to me because these guys who are such elite fighters, they're also chasing challenges. And if you have, some people will say, and I've heard this quote before, winning the title is hard, but actually defending as the champion is harder. And if you look at what he's done since he won the featherweight championship, he's defended it 4 times. So he's actually, that challenge for him of title defenses, he's successfully done it. So I could definitely see him going, okay, what's next? What am I chasing next as a top level athlete? So I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it's similar in a way to Israel Adesanya. When he's a middleweight champion, he tried to move up to 205, lost there, went back to 185, lost his title, but then he won it back. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at, and then also just thinking that, the Mexico is having a big year. They're winning a lot of titles this year. We had Brandon Moreno, we had Yair earlier in the year winning that interim title, and we also had the big upset with Tisha Torres. If that's who it was. I'm so bad with this. I forget it every single time, and I did it on the show last time. Who beat Valentina Shevchenko? Ryan's going to be screaming at me here if I'm wrong, and I'm sure I am. But yeah, so it's and they've loaded up the show with Mexican fighters, like even all the way down to the prelims. I mentioned Yasmin Uruguay. There's also Jesus Aguilar.
You're thinking of Grasso.
Yeah, Alexa Grasso. I don't know.
I was almost sure it was Grasso, but then I didn't want us both to have mistakes. So I was like, okay, let me.
I'm glad you corrected me, and I'll forget it again next time too. I was there live. I'm just bad. I'm getting old. But yeah, it's and you ask about the card. I mean, that we got that second fight, and it's a third fight that Brandon Moreno and Alexander Pantoja have had. They're fighting for the flyweight title. Pantoja beat him the first 2 times, but that was obviously before he was champion. So
that's so interesting. His Moreno's his career so far has been fascinating in that he has 4 fights with Davison Figueiredo, and now he's fought Pantoja a few different times. So like at these smaller weight classes, he's also fought Kai Kara France twice. It's like they're just recycling through opponents, and so this worked with you were talking about who were you just talking about?
What, Brandon Moreno?
No. Israel
Oh,
Adesanya. You're
Israel.
just
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
like
with and Adesanya and Whitaker. Yeah, same thing.
and not only that, but who Adesanya just beat because
Yeah.
he'd never beat him in
Oh, yeah.
prior.
Pahea, Alex
Yeah,
Pahea.
and so like I like that aspect of it, and so you can tell these stories. They're kind of made for for
Kind of
storytelling.
like boxing, eh? Boxing is like that, where guys will fight each other at different points in their career.
Yeah, if you get on the right sort of like certain guys, if they're dominant, and then you may recycle through them a few different times at different parts. But yeah, I mean it's good for storytelling. I think it works from the grudge aspect. 'Cause that's always worked for me as a UFC
Mhm.
fan is the grudge. Do you remember the first time they did that storyline for a fight?
For a grudge?
Yeah, like this
Um,
grudge aspect.
well, I mean, for me, like, because I came into UFC kind of late, so the one that really got me was Bisping and Hamill.
Okay.
Where, like, Bisping fought him, and I think it was in England, and Hamill was beating him, and yet Bisping got the decision. So he was, like, he was just being a dick about it. No, I beat you. And even though it was clear to everyone watching, he didn't. That one, I would say Sarah and GSP,
Yeah.
with Sarah, like, just trash talking Canada, and then GSP wanting to get him back. Hughes and GSP. So those are the kind of the ones that I remember seeing first.
Can I
But there
go all
were
the way
ones before
back?
that, Ortiz and Liddell, but I didn't live through that. So
Can I
I
go
mean,
all
I
the way
lived through
back
it, but I wasn't
to
watching.
UFC 19?
Oh, wow. So what was that?
There was a savvy technician named Jeremy Horn who beat a greenhorn in Chuck Liddell
Oh, yeah.
by triangle choke, and then so that was in 1999, and then by the time they had fought again, which would have been I think it's '04. Let me look that up to be 100% sure.
That
'05. They
was
fought in '05, and Chuck was at his peak pretty much. It was right before he beat Randy for their third fight, and he destroyed Jerry. I mean, it went 4 rounds, but he was very clearly in control of that whole fight.
Ortiz and Liddell kind of had that too, right? Because they fought once kind of in the dark ages, and then they fought again when in that same period when he fought Horn. But that was when Ortiz was kind of at the top of his game, and Liddell was kind of, I think, if I'm
Yeah,
remembering
but
right.
it's
Yeah.
just the idea that Jeremy by the
Yeah.
time that second Chuck fight had happened, I don't think that there was a lot of people who thought Chuck was going to lose that fight, but you have all that footage from the time that he beat him before, so it's like there's a reason. It's a story and it's a grudge. So I like that
Oh,
storytelling.
there was another one like that, and the fight never happened, but it was one that people were trying to get. You'll probably remember this too. Was Conor McGregor, and a guy that he had lost to early in his career came into UFC, and he was winning a lot of fights, and he was trying to get that rematch with Conor. Joe Duffy. I
Oh,
didn't even have to look it up. But then Duffy lost, and then he was, ended up being out of UFC, and Connor just kept going up. But that was one that I kind of was hoping to see, just because he had lost. And Holloway is another one. He lost to Connor early in his career, and then when Holloway was a champ, he was wanting that fight again. But by then they were in different weight classes, so
yeah.
that never happened either. And now I think if it happened, Holloway probably wastes them, even if they meet somewhere, just because the way things are. Connor probably wouldn't want that fight. So
Yeah, like that Holloway fight that you're talking about. I don't know. That just seems like so long ago,
well,
right?
it's almost 10 years,
I
but
think it's
yeah.
more. Well, maybe it
Was
might
it?
be right around. It might be right around 10 years.
Yeah, maybe,
Almost 10 years.
maybe 10. Yeah.
Almost 10 years. But like it doesn't seem like to me and this happens as you get older where time just
Yeah.
goes by so much faster because it's such a smaller part of your life every year. And I just look at that and I go, nah, yeah, Holloway and McGregor, 5 years ago. No, 10 years. It's
Well,
crazy.
the pandemic warps everything too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to this card.
Yeah.
So the Moreno fight, I'm excited to see that. I enjoy watching Moreno fight a lot. And like I said, there's a little bit of that Mexican pride in there. Robert Whitaker, he's
Yep.
facing Duplessis and
Yeah.
Duplessis, if I'm saying that correctly.
Duplessis. Almost
Duplessis
like Dupree in UFC. It's Duplessis. That's his pronunciation.
sounds like a Harry Potter character or something, the way that his
Yeah.
name reads. But he's been on quite a roll of late.
Yep. Yeah. He's honestly like middleweight is interesting because Adesanya's beat most of the top contenders, but he's never faced Dricus. So this is a big one because him and Whitaker have already fought a few times. So if Duplessis wins this fight, especially if he gets a finish, I think you go immediately to that title match. He's on a 6-7 fight win streak. 5 of them in UFC. So, he's a guy and gets a lot of finishes, and he's a guy that gets tougher as the fight goes on. So he usually loses the first round, and then he comes on stronger in the second and third. So he's a guy to definitely keep an eye on. And I'm really, really looking forward to this fight a lot. And Whitaker's been, or as Dave calls him, Bobby Knuckles, is one of the top middleweights. Ryan called him the most underrated fighter of all time.
Of all time.
On our show. Yeah. Like he's a guy like when you talk about all-time greats, no one ever talks about him, but they really should. So yeah. He's a guy that, is just kind of never in that GOAT conversation, but maybe should be, but he's just got the unfortunate thing of being in the same division as Israel Adesanya right now.
Yeah, it's one of those fights where when I look and I go, oh, I don't want to miss on this. I don't want to be late to the party. And all of a sudden, Duplessis is just like a game changer fighter. And then I'm like, I should have saw this one coming. But kind of to what Ryan was saying, it's hard betting against Robert Whitaker. Like you have to really think about that.
He's a big favorite too. And like former champion. I think he's only lost to Adesanya since he's moved to middleweight, and that's 9 years ago. So yeah, in the last 9 years, he's only lost twice, and they're both to Israel Adesanya. So and he's got a lot of big wins in between there. Yoel Romero a couple times, Derek Brunson, Rafael Natal, Jacare Souza, Jared Cannonier, Kevin Gastelum. So he's just beaten everybody except Adesanya.
So before we move on, and I want to hear some thoughts on what fights you're looking forward to that maybe the normal mainstream public won't be looking to, and then we can get to your best bets. I want to mention, because we had a free week, it's free month on the Patreon, meaning one free show a week. We will take a show that's on our Patreon, $5 a month, and for YouTube folks, you could see the link there. But patreon.com/FightGameMedia. $5 a month. We generally have 2 to 3 shows in that feed every week. And for July, we're going to make one free a week. So you could go to the website and just click on it and listen to it. And the first one that we did was this week, which was the Dynamite show, which you and Jeff Hawkins were on, talking AEW. So I wanted to make sure people knew that, they could check out your AEW stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's free for this month in the feed, and people can kind of check that out and listen to you and Jeff go up, pretty much, a few hours after the East Coast version of Dynamite is done. You guys are up and with your review already.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a hell of a show this past weekend or this past week. Not our typical one, because normally I'm the one that's all hyped up on AEW, and Jeff's the one who brings me down, and we kind of reverse roles this week.
Oh, he liked the show a lot more than you did.
He liked it more than I did. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But so on this show, UFC 290, I mean, we've talked about a couple of them, but the other main card fight that I think people definitely want to watch, and it's going to open the card, is Bo Nickel. We talked about middleweight, and he's a guy that they're kind of banking the future on. He's a couple years away from fighting for a title, but he's 4-0. He's an All-American, but he's also like just an incredible striker, submission artist. He's just mowed through his first 4 opponents. The last 3 have been, 2 of them on the Contender Series, which is basically UFC, and then his UFC debut, which I was at in March. And three fights, all won by submission, less than 5 minutes in total fight time in 3 fights. So, and it's a late replacement opponent that he's got, Val Woodburn, because his original opponent Tashawn Gore pulled out earlier this week, so they pulled this guy from the regional scene, and he's undefeated. He's 7-0. So I mean, I don't know a lot about him, but it's kind of a dangerous fight. It seems like on paper, but Nickel's still a huge favorite. And then of course in the prelims, like you kind of want to tune in early and watch the prelims, because the last prelim fight is going to be Robbie Lawler's retirement fight. Former welterweight champion, OG, going back to Strikeforce and early UFC, the era you're talking about.
He was
earlier.
a young dude.
Yeah, he was the first televised cable UFC fight. I think was him and oh god, I remember seeing it was on that damn sports show.
Oh yeah, Best Damn Sports Show.
Yeah, with oh god, what was it? I want to say like Aaron Riley or something.
Aaron Riley would have been UFC 37.
Yeah, no, 30. Is it 37.5?
37.5 is Steve Berger.
That might have been the special that they re-aired, because it wasn't like specific. I don't think it was live on that sort show. It was like a taped fight, so it might have been that one. I'm just looking at his record. I don't see it.
He debuted in the UFC. Now he had fought for a whole year before that doing other stuff, but he comes into the UFC May 10th, 2002. So what would that have made him? He would have been 20 years old exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's 21 years ago, and he's still going. And you know what? He's still having great fights. Like, he's not the, world champion contender or anything like that, but his last fight with Brian Barberino was just wild. It was just a knockdown drag 'em. They just both punched the hell out of each other till Lawler fell down, basically. And then the fight before that was that one with Nick Diaz, where he just leveled. I think he landed like 300 strikes in that fight, and Diaz just finally quit. Like, he literally just quit in I think it was the 4th round.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that was 2 years ago. So he's only fighting once a year, because I mean, you're 40 years old.
Yeah. So here's my worry. Here's what I don't want. Now, Nico Price is not busting through anybody's door these days. I don't want to be sad though.
I don't think you will be. I think you're going to see a good fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you will. I don't think, you may be sad. He probably going to get knocked out, but I think he's going to have some moments, and he could win. He still hits hard.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see him. I just
don't want to see him.
You don't want to see Frankie Edgar.
Yeah,
you don't want to see,
exactly.
or like Rich Franklin or Chuck Liddell. Like,
when you say retirement fight, I get kind of nervous.
No, I hear you. But this is one where he decided a long time ago this is going to be it. He's been preparing, and Nico Price is a good opponent for that, because he could get knocked out. He's 15-6, but kind of a 500 record in UFC. So, coming off 3 losses in his last 5 fights. So, definitely prime for to have a good fight, but maybe even be knocked out. So yeah, I'm looking. Lost to Phil Rowe in his last fight, so that guy's not a world beater either. Then the only other one I would ask people to keep an eye on, if you really want to watch a ton of fighting this week and tune in early for the prelims, Cameron Saman is a guy to keep an eye on. He's on the early prelims. He's 8-0. He's a bantamweight. Won a contract when he was only 21 years old on Dana White's Contender Series. He's already fought a few times, and he's just a fountain of charisma. He's from South Africa, but he's just so likable and great, exciting fighting style. So keep an eye on him down the road. I know you're always looking for these guys.
Yeah, I like to see who's kind of coming up, who to keep an eye on, because with so much of this stuff on ESPN Plus, you just go and watch all of their fights to catch up and make sure you can see all of it.
So definitely Cameron Saman is a guy to keep an eye on. For sure.
All right. Let's give your 3 best bets for this show.
And it's actually the top 3 fights. So
there you go.
Yeah. And just the way it worked out this week. So Dricus du Plessis is a +300 underdog, which is great value. He won the only other time he's been an underdog, and he's got a 58.8% ROI. So definitely keep an eye on that. Brandon Moreno in the co-main. He's a -205 favorite, 58.1% ROI. And he's got a 4-1 record when he's been a favorite. So that's getting good value there. And actually, even though I was talking about, Rodriguez, my third one is actually Alexander Volkanovski, 48.8% ROI. He's a -435 favorite. So it's not a ton of value, but it's a safe bet. And he's never lost as a favorite.
And as I always ask you to do, just in case we have brand new listeners, explain your process here.
Yeah, so it's basically based on the history So I just go with, every dollar bet, you're getting a profit of, for instance, in the case of Volkanovski, a 48.8% profit for every dollar you bet. So historically, if you've bet on Volkanovski in every single fight, you would have a 48.8% profit. So if you bet $100, you're winning $49 for every 100 you bet. So it's like, and that's profit. So you're winning 149 on a $100 bet.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, and it tends to skew like for the guys with great records, obviously, because even when they're winning as favorites, they're winning. But a lot of times the guys, for some reason, some guys just do really well as underdogs, and Duplessis is one of those. So.
All right, there you go. UFC 290 Saturday night, Las Vegas. Paul Fontaine, you and Ryan will be back. Tuesday? With In the Clinch, talking about UFC 290.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks to Paul, and that'll be it from here.